Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everybody. This is Melissa Wires. I'm the Executive Director of Every Action, and I've got Lori Kranzer here with me today, and we're going to talk about how to jumpstart your planned giving program during year end. I know for all the fundraisers out there, there is no shortage of things to do at year end, but today we're going to really talk about why it really is to your benefit to think about planned giving along with everything else. Let me introduce Lori Kranzer. She is 18 years doing planned giving. She actually started out as an attorney, as many people do, and then she found her real life's calling, working with nonprofit groups and helping them do planned giving. She is a consultant, and as we go along, we'll talk a little bit about her courses and different things that she offers, because I think she's a wealth of knowledge to folks that are both starting planned giving programs and are part of the way in their planned giving programs, and people who have mature programs. Couple of housekeeping things today. You can join the conversation on Twitter. Please just use hashtag planned giving, simple enough. Also, feel free to ask questions anytime throughout this webinar. You just want to enter your questions, type them into the chat box. Everybody that's participating in this webinar, except for Lori and I, are on listen only mode. So the way you get your questions in is in the chat box. We probably will save most of the questions until the end, but we'll make sure that we have plenty of time to answer them. And don't be shy. We want to make this useful. The one thing I am, just as a disclaimer up front, I'm going to say, even though Lori is an attorney and I am not, this is not one for us to give legal counsel on today. So any other questions you have, feel free, but anything that's specific to you that you'd want to talk to counsel, that's the recommendation we're going to make to you. All right. So I think with that, Lori, everybody's at a lot of different places and where they are with planned giving. I think everybody knows it's something they should do more of, and it's a great opportunity to add revenue. But, can you just kind of explain in general, why is legacy giving important and why should you be in the game now?
Absolutely. Legacy giving is the donor's ultimate gift to the organization. So your donors that you have already in your database are your legacy giving donors. You just need to speak with your donors about their values and why they want to make that connection in the form of a philanthropic gift to your organization. So I do say that you may have any donor that gives an annual gift to your donor. Not everyone is going to be a legacy giving donor. It is really the donors that are really connected to your organization, and I'm sure that you know them. They're your board members. There are those donors that give restricted gifts to programming. They're the ones that come to all the events. Those are the ones that are really interested in doing a legacy gift. If you talk to them about the gift, it is also a value-based gift, which is different than an annual gift. So it's not transactional, as in every year they're giving the same gift or maybe a little bit more. This is really going towards their values about what they want to support for the future of the organization and how it's aligned with what they want and their family.
Yeah, no, and I think Lori makes a great point about values. As you're doing your marketing and kind of surfacing these people who are good prospects for planned giving, the message that you really want to have is why your organization's values and their values align, as opposed to starting out with the mechanics of planned gifts, I think.
Exactly. The conversation doesn't start with, do you want to do a bequest or a trust? The conversation starts, how do you see the future? Why do you give to the organization? What can we do better? What do you see for the future? Those are the types of questions you have with your type of questions you ask your donors.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I think come up a lot is kind of, where do you start? If what you really have right now is not such a focused program, meaning basically you get bequests from time to time, but honestly, you're not even sure where they come from some of the times. And you maybe don't really have a planned marketing or stewardship program. What's your recommendation? What are 3 things somebody should do to get started?
Okay, the first thing that you need to do is understand why you as an organization needs to have planned gifts. Because if you don't understand what your future holds for you, what you want to plan for the future, you can't ask your donors to support that. So you need to have a legacy case statement first, and from there all your marketing will come from that. Because why a donor wants to do a legacy gift as compared to an annual gift, they're 2 different things. So that's the first thing that you really need to work on, is having a legacy case statement of why a donor should give a legacy gift. Then after that, there's lots of other things, but the one thing you need to think about is, who are your donors? So we talked about they're already in your database. You don't have to go out and get new donors for legacy gifts. You have them already. So don't focus on speaking to the community at large about it. You look inside your database and start to segment your list and find those donors. And what I like to do is segment them into different categories. So you have your board members, you have maybe capital campaign donors that have supported capital campaign in the past. You may have donors that have showed an interest in a legacy gift in the past and you flag them, but they haven't done anything yet. You have donors that are giving to you ongoing. Those are wonderful legacy gift donors. So first your case statement, and then you want to segment your list, and then you want to start having the conversations. That's really the most important thing. So you can have your case statement, you can have your donors, but if you're not talking with your donors, you're not going to get those gifts. So those are the three things you need to do.
Mm-hmm. And just to go into segmentation just a little bit more, mm-hmm. So particularly talk a little bit about, you're just getting started. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to start doing some marketing and maybe just start simply with some emails. What further segment? What age do you think is the right age to start? What other demographics are important? And then do you think there's a value with number of years somebody's given, or how do you feel about some of that stuff?
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. So certainly if you take interest out first, so board members, people that you know that are truly involved, that's one category, or capital campaign donors because they supported a larger campaign at some point. Mm-hmm. They understand about supporting something for the future and a project. That's one thing. If you have the ages of your donors, which is really important, I like an age overlay rather than a wealth overlay. If you're going to do one or the other, mm-hmm. Ages are more important because a legacy gift, you can get a legacy gift from anyone. They could be at any age, but quite frankly, the ones that are really starting to think about that, industry-wise, people look at 65 and up. I go a little younger. I would say even 50 and up because people are starting to think about what their legacies are. And they can do gifts that aren't in estate planning. It could be an endowment gift. It could be other gifts that are considered legacy gifts. So I would do 50 and up. So if you have their ages, and then you can also segment by, like you mentioned, how many times they give. So one of the indications of a legacy gift donor is someone that gives any amount over the course of many years. So frequency and longevity of giving. So someone can give $10 every time they get something in the mail from you.
We love those donors.
Yes, and that's worth more than coming to an event once to support mm-hmm, something mm-hmm. And giving $1,000, but you never hear from them again. They're not engaged. They're not your legacy mm-hmm. giving prospect. Mm-hmm. But someone that's continually giving to you over a long period of time, whatever they have, because remember, legacy giving, someone can make a very significant legacy gift upon their passing, but they don't have the assets now to make that impact. Mm-hmm. Okay, so don't forget about those small giving, those donors that give me small gifts because they could truly be a legacy donor.
Yeah, I think that is something really different about planned giving than some of the annual giving. You really see people doing a lot of segmenting based on average gift or stretch gifts. And I know a lot of people are working with mid-level programs now and taking those donors a little higher. But I think everybody in planned gifts finds, just like you said, a donor that is making a small annual gift to you, $10, $25, but they're doing it for a long, long time. Those can be multi-million-dollar bequests, if nothing else. And sometimes right. They're interested in other planned gifts. So I think that's one place it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So I think folks that if you've started anywhere, you've started with bequests. And like I said, if things are going your way, you're just getting bequests without even doing anything. But I think one of the places to start is to make sure you make it easy to give bequests, and you have information that you take that. And if you have a giving society, you want to have all that. But let's say you've got your bequests going on. Then what's the next? I hear a lot of people ask, there's so many different gifts out there. What's really the right way to go? What should I focus on?
Okay, so we say bequest because that's the most common planned gift out there. 80% of the gifts that come in through planned giving are through the form of a bequest. Most people understand what they are. It comes from a will. Donors tend to get that. After that, depending on how mature your program is, you can start to market or talk about other types of gifts, but that really will be dependent upon what the donor's philanthropic and financial situation is. If I'm going to suggest another type of gift after bequest, it would be endowment. Mm. Because that's really where you want all your legacy gifts to go to, into endowment to support the future of the organization. Mm-hmm. So that's the life cycle of of a gift. It should be annual gift to planned gift to endowment. So I highly recommend, if you don't have an endowment already, to start an endowment and start putting assets that you get in through legacy gifts into that endowment and to build that endowment for the future.
All right. So the other question I hear a lot, we are a small to medium organization and we just don't have in-house counsel or, a lawyer on retainer. And that's not something that we feel like we can invest in. So we can't do plan giving yet.
Right.
Do you think that's true?
No, absolutely not. While it may be helpful to have someone with that background, it is absolutely not necessary. In fact, I encourage fundraisers, anyone that talks to donors about giving, and that could be anyone in the organization, certainly program staff as well, is to talk about legacy giving. You don't need to have legal counsel on staff. Certainly not a lot of people do, not a lot of organizations do, or you don't even have to have a plan giving professional on staff. It's great if you have it, but it's not necessary, especially when you first start out. I do recommend, though, to have someone in mind that you're going to go to should you start to get those gifts in that may be a little more complicated and you need some assistance. So know of someone either on your board, or you must have outside counsel, someone that you can go to ask those kind of questions. That's why also a lot of people use someone like me as a consultant to do those types of projects for them.
Yeah. And I know when I was working with clients doing plan giving, it was just pro forma. The donor, we'd have the conversation, and then we say, of course, you want to check with your legal counsel and financial advisor and family and anybody else that you discuss these things with.
Right, because the organization should not be advising the donor. The donor has to have their own legal counsel anyway. So it's helpful to have one on staff or someone that's accessible to the organization, but they would not be advising the donor.
Right. Well, now that we're in November, the election is over, year end is truly upon us. And so a little bit kind of what we really want to dig in on today, what can you do in terms of planned giving before the end of the year that really can have an impact on your program?
So I would say if you're just starting out with planned giving, to start to market, if you can, put it in your communications that are going out through the end of the year, different types of ways that a donor can make their annual gift, but also as a legacy gift or as a planned gift. So that could be gifts of stock. So if they have appreciated, I know the market's down right now, but if they have appreciated assets.
The year's not over yet, though. So,
but if there's any kind of appreciated assets, that's a wonderful way to make a year-end gift. And it could be towards their annual gift, but it's as a planned gift. The same thing for donor advised funds. You may have a lot of donors sitting with very large donor advised funds, and they've already got their tax deduction for that. So it's a great gift any time of the year, but now is when they're thinking about giving at the end of the year, and it doesn't hurt as much for them to make a designation to your organization. They don't feel it as much. So certainly a donor advised fund gift is great also this time of the year. We also, this time of the year is usually when we have the IRA rollover.
Yep.
But now the law is permanent, so it doesn't have to be a big push at the end of the year. And quite frankly, that's the type of gift that I would start to talk to your donors about in January or February, so they have time to plan for it throughout the year. But the end of year, I would suggest appreciated assets right now, or if you have a gift annuity program, now, like right now is the time to get it out soon, so you'd be able to close those gifts before the end of the year.
Yeah. One of the things that we really advise a lot of folks to think about doing, and particularly get through Giving Tuesday, get all your Giving Tuesday gifts, combine those folks with anyone who it's pretty clear they've already made their annual gift to you, and then think about doing, an automated email series campaign, gently thanking people and saying, here's another great thing you could do before the end of the year. Particularly mentioning stock, donor advised funds is a great idea. And what a lot of groups is really surprising when you talk to donors is even people who've been longtime donors of the organization, it just doesn't cross their mind that you have an endowment or that you're doing a full planned giving program, unless you're, a university or a hospital, which everyone seems to be aware. So some of what you can do at year end, particularly with those people that you've got that last gift of the year from, and you're pretty sure of that, is to make them aware. It may not be this year that they fulfill that, but like you said, January and February is also a great time to work on a plan giving program, and you kind of set yourself up to have some of those conversations, I think.
Exactly. Now's not the time to start to get a principal gift in for your organization because you don't have a lot of time. But now is the time. It's always the time to start planting the seeds to make those types of gifts for the future. So certainly start planting the seeds to launch a larger campaign for plan giving next year.
Yeah, and I found when I was doing this too, a lot of people, and I found actually a lot of women and women who are business owners, kind of between now and the end of the year, they are meeting with their accountants and their legal counsel. And so since they're doing that anyway, you reminding them that maybe planned giving is part of what they can think about, they can throw those questions into those people since they're meeting with them anyway. And even though it's a super busy time of the year, that seems to be one of the things that people are doing. And so you want to try to take advantage of that. All right. So anything else to really focus on? Maybe talk a little bit about marketing. I think everybody feels like, yeah, I should be marketing plan giving, but what does that mean exactly? What should I be doing?
Okay, so we talked about the legacy case statement, and that is going to be your...
What do you feel like are the key components? If somebody hasn't done a legacy case statement before, what's your top 3 things you got to talk about in a case statement?
It has to talk about why you are unique. So what sets you apart from other organizations, why the donor should be supporting you and not someone else. And not that you have to talk about anyone else, but how are you connected to that donor? It has to really speak to their values. And you need to also talk about what your future needs are. So you don't want to talk about how great your programs are and you founded in 1852. No one cares about that. They're already your donors. They like you. You don't have to convince them. But you want to talk about, well, we've been so successful in X, Y, and Z programs, and this is where we see ourselves going in the future. This is what we need to do. And so you're giving them an opportunity to see how they can fill that gap with a gift. So,
and I think sometimes we have a lot of Every Action users who are working for causes. And I think sometimes causes that, they don't have a big building or a big library or whatever, they feel a little hesitant about how do you talk about this? Because obviously they want to win on the issues they're working on and not, have these last forever. But I think I've seen people go back to those core values. We always want to make sure women are free to choose, no matter what climate we are in forever. Somebody's always going to have to be there to fight that. I think, in recent years, civil liberties, someone has always got to be the guardian of civil liberties. If you are kind of working on the social service side, we hope to do better and better. But for this foreseeable future, we need to help house and feed and provide medical care for all folks. And I found that those, again, like you said, it's tapping into people's values. But those, kind of conversations are, if anything, more powerful than, the university is always going to need a great set of buildings, kind of thing.
Absolutely. But, we don't know what the donor is supporting and how they're affected by the organization. So it's donors that, whether it was themselves or their family, something had impacted them during their lifetime to make them feel that they want to support the organization with a planned gift. And when you're drafting the case statement, it should speak to that ideal donor. You write it out like an avatar of who that donor is. You probably can think about who is that ideal donor that you work with that would do a legacy gift. How old is the person? Name the person. What's the person's name? What do they like? What are they interested in? What do they support? And then you can really then take that information and craft that legacy statement, the case statement, to attract many donors, because many of your donors will feel that way. They'll see themselves in that case statement. So when you have that case statement, that's what you extract all that good information that you have in there to put in your marketing, like we were talking about before. So you take that and anything that goes outside of the organization, any external document that is sent out should have something about legacy in it. It doesn't have to be an ask, but it should be something planting the seed. So, and definitely storytelling. So testimonials, quotes, pictures, videos, anything that you can do, telling the story about why someone did a legacy gift is absolutely the best thing you can do. A laundry list of different types of gifts, no. I mean, some donors want to see that, and if you can put it on your website, that's great. but donors are more, and I would say humans are more interested in reading stories about other people.
Yeah.
And once they want to do that gift, once you get to the why they want to do the gift, they'll speak with you and their attorneys to figure out how to do the gift. So you don't have to explain to them how to do the gift. You have to get them through the why. So that's where the marketing really is effective.
Right. I, in a previous life, had a client that I always thought had a great story, and it tied in perfectly to year end. They had talked about the values of an organization, and what do you not only want your legacy to be beyond your life, but really what values do you want your family to carry on, which I thought was a great way to do it. And so they had somebody who made a pretty substantial planned gift with them. And what she had done had taken this, and she'd actually gotten together at Thanksgiving with all her children and grandchildren. And she talked about the causes that she cared about in her life. Civil liberties were a big deal to her. Human rights were a big deal to her. And she talked about, this is what I want you to care about, past my lifetime. And it started a great conversation. It really energized her that, like, now I need to put my money where my mouth is. And so she made a substantial planned gift with this organization. And they did a video of her talking about this. And it was hugely popular because, you don't exactly, I don't know, my grandmother used to be this way, that at half of the holidays, then she'd start looking around the room and saying, what do you want? Which I think is not necessarily, the most cheerful way to do your holidays. But this was a good way to talk about, here's what's important to me, and I want you to understand that, and I hope it's important to you too. And so also then nobody's shocked that grandma left a planned gift with organization XYZ. But I just think that's something to kind of, think about where you can do that with some of your supporters and get them to use holiday get-togethers to kind of have some of those conversations.
It's true. And just going along that line as well, no one talks to their family about their annual gifts. Like you're writing a check to, whatever organizations they support, but they will talk to their family about the planned gifts.
Yep. So kind of looking at it the other way, what would you not do between now and the end of the year? What doesn't make sense for planned giving, if anything,
I wouldn't get stressed over the fact that it's you may not get any planned gifts this short period of time. Remember that a planned gift is a long horizon gift. So I would not shelve it for later on. I would start working on the planned gifts, but I would say not to start working on complicated gifts like a principal gift, like I mentioned before, or think that there's going to be any sort of trust or some sort of complex gift happening in the next few months. But I would start planning for that. If that happens, if you have a donor like you think would make a gift like that, start planting the seed for next year.
Great. And then a little bit like, what are the resources you need without having a huge budget, but what does your website need to be? What kind of CRM do you need to have? Do you need calculators? What's really useful, if you're on a small budget?
So you can piggyback on everything that you have already. You don't need to have any sort of fancy brochures or any printed materials, especially when you're first starting out. Certainly something on the website, like I mentioned before, testimonials, video is great. Anything that's engaging. You may also want to have some information for a donor to just pull off your website about your tax ID number, suggested language for a bequest, things, templates like that they can use and they can bring to their attorney, and certainly have contact information. I see a lot of people put information on there and the donor doesn't know how to contact a particular person about making a gift. So contact information, absolutely. I don't love calculators just because I think it's a nice tool for a donor to have to use, but sometimes it can be a little confusing to them. And really what you rather them do is call you and talk about the gift, because maybe the type of gift that they're thinking they need to do is not the right gift for them. So I'm not a huge fan of calculators. I understand some people like them, so I'm sort of on the fence on that. And other than that, for marketing, just put in everything they have already, annual reports. Just try to piggyback. I know sometimes, it's hard to get some, placement in certain things. You have to fight, for it. But everything that's out there already, piggyback on the events. So if there's an event going on in your organization, you can have either material that can be done, just off the computer, telling donors about legacy, or you can have someone have a pitch, talk about why they did the gift. They could stand up and talk about it, or maybe a side little cocktail party, just to piggyback on the things you're doing already.
Great. Yeah. And so again, you're doing this on the side of your other busy jobs that you do at your organization. What are kind of some of the best resources out there? What do you recommend to people? What's, without having a big budget and a full staff, where can you kind of get started with some good info?
There's lots of information on the internet. You can get anything. You can just Google plan giving and find lots of different things. There are some blogs that are helpful, but they tend to have a little bit of more technical aspects of the gifts. Certainly, I think anything marketing related, if you're is the way to go. I'd rather someone be focused on how to do marketing well than how to do a plan gift well if they're first starting out.
Right.
Because that's really what it is in the beginning. And that's all free. And then there's lots of classes, lots of universities have classes on plan giving when it gets a little more involved, how to do an actual program. There are boot camps and online courses. I have an online course as well. And I also do group coaching for small groups of organizations to get them through the whole process over a course of 2 months. To build their program. So there's lots of different resources out there.
Yeah. Lack of resources is not the reason to start this program.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
That's great. So I'm going to do one more question with Lori, and then we're going to take your questions. So if you haven't started typing in, type in your questions, and we'll go back to them in just a second. And we're collecting questions as we speak. So what else do folks need? What will help somebody, particularly with the marketing? Maybe dive into that marketing a little bit, because I know oftentimes when I'm talking with folks at nonprofits, they do get really focused in the mechanics of the gift, which are not unimportant, but you're going to have to do so much marketing before you get to that point. What kind of recommendations do you make in that area?
So with marketing could be very expensive. And that's why some people will just go all out and spend a lot of money. You don't have to do that. The best way to do it is to segment your list and know who you're talking with. So for your board, which most of your gifts should come in in the beginning, because they're on your board, they should give a legacy gift. You don't need to spend a lot of marketing for them. It's a conversation. So if you segment your list, you actually can reduce marketing expenses because you'll know who you're talking with or to in each different area. So that's really one of the things that someone should be doing regarding keeping the budget down and having a wide range of different marketing efforts.
Do you have any recommendations kind of channel wise? If you're going to spend some money, should you do it in the mail? Is this an all online program? What's a little bit the trade-offs there? Or what do you recommend?
If you're going to spend any money on anything in marketing, everyone has different opinions about it. Some people like to have a leave behind when they're going to a donor, and something like that I think is very helpful. It doesn't have to be fancy, expensive, glossy brochures. In fact, there's ways you should do a plan giving brochure in marketing. People, glossy. The donors can't see it very well if they're elderly. So something like that.
Big print.
Yes,
this is your big print audience.
Large print, lots of white space. But good marketing techniques anyway. So leave behind is nice to have. Certainly resources on the website. A website I think is very important to have because people will look. So make sure that you have the capacity to put some, like even just a page. Doesn't have to be a whole section on the website. A page on it. And if I was going to do any other spending money on it, surveys are great to do. Send surveys to your donors. It depends on your donor base. I don't want to say whether online or printed is better. It depends on your demographics. I would go with online first since it's less expensive. And then if you're not getting a great response, try in the mail. But like I said, you could piggyback on things you're already sending. If you're already sending out a communication, an annual campaign communication, put something in or do a buck slip. And see what kind of responses you get from that. It's like drip marketing. You have to keep doing
little
it.
by little by little. No, that makes sense. The one tip that I'll put out there, because I'm always surprised when I don't see this, is definitely have contact information on your website and make sure you have a phone number where they can reach a human. Most people who are doing planned gifts are of phone talking habits and
Mhm.
generation. And even though some people don't do that anymore, they do. So make sure that they can reach you by phone, because it's surprising how many times this is the day they want to do it and they want to reach out and they want to talk to somebody and get
Right.
their questions answered.
And a person's name.
Yes.
And if you can do a picture, that's great also, but certainly a person's name. No one wants to call info at.
Right. Plan giving department
Yeah.
at. Yeah, exactly. All right. So with that, we're going to turn to the questions. We've got a nice group of questions here. The first one being, can you explain in more detail what a legacy gift is?
Yeah, so a legacy gift is sort of the warm and fuzzy way of saying a planned gift. A lot of people are moving away from saying planned gift and saying legacy, just because it has a more value based meaning. But it's any type of gift that requires some planning. So what does that mean? There is bequest. There could be complex assets like art or real estate. It's just more of a gift than just writing out a check for an annual gift. And a legacy gift, not only is it a more complex asset usually or type of gift vehicle, but the value associated with it is different. So while your donors may do an annual gift continually every year, they may likely only do one legacy gift.
Right. I think the way I always think of legacy gifts too, and there's some exceptions to this, but usually is a legacy gift is going to be committed to now, but not fully fulfilled until later in a person's life or after their life, depending on how that.
It depends on the gift
out.
vehicle. If it's a current endowment gift, it's fulfilled now. But most times it is a deferred gift through an estate plan because they are usually as bequests, but they could be lots of different.
Yeah, I think sometimes with legacy gifts, and it's not always a bequest gift, but just I've seen folks, we're downsizing or we're moving to Florida now or those kind of things, and we have some beautiful artwork or something, but we're not going to insure it and take it with us anymore. So where do we want that to have its next life and some of that kind of thing. Next question. What is the resource you just stated for learning how to market a planned gift? You said it was free and I missed it.
The resource to market a planned gift. I don't remember what.
Internet in general, Google.
Oh, the internet, absolutely. Looking on the internet to get information. If you just Google planned gifts or legacy giving programs, you'll find a lot of information out there for free. What you then need to do is extract that information and apply it to your organization. And that's why sometimes it's helpful to take a class or some sort of course that will be more customized to what your organization is doing.
And I think just the big thing that Lori said to do is really think about your segmentation. Think people over 50, think people who have been your donors for a number of years, even if they haven't been a high dollar donor, although don't forget your high dollar donors. And that's kind of a place to start with your marketing. Next question, how would you apply this model to a membership program? I think membership programs are even better than non-membership programs for planned giving. I don't know what you think.
Well, membership programs, people are used to giving long-term gifts over a course of a time, right? And so those are basically legacy giving prospects, people that are supporting you for a long time and they're interested enough to support your organization. I think if it's like a membership program like a museum, I'm thinking, they have very robust planned giving programs, so it certainly fits into that.
Yeah. And I think the nice thing about a membership program, although it's not limited to membership programs, but if they have regularly renewed for a long time, they care a lot about what you're doing. And that's a sign to you that they might want to leave their assets to you when they're no longer of value to them. So I think that's always a good indication. I've been thinking of asking donors to commit to an annual planned gift for the next 5 years, gradually increasing it to our 100th anniversary. Does this lay the foundation for them also to leave a legacy gift?
To commit to an annual planned gift for the next 5 years, gradually increase into. Absolutely. I would, in this kind of scenario, I would have a talk with your donor about, or asking donors to do an endowment gift for this. Anytime there's a sort of a life event for the donor or the organization, such as an anniversary or a long-term executive director leaving, something like that, someone retiring, when you have an anniversary, that is a perfect opportunity to start asking for legacy gifts in honor of that event. So absolutely, I would start an endowment campaign over that.
Yeah. One of the programs that I saw that was effective with marketing is the organization recognized the number of years that the person had been supporting.
Yes.
So, this is your 10th year, Susan, that you've been one of our great supporters, and we love you, I get hugs and kisses. And then they would follow that up 3 days later with, do you know about these great legacy giving opportunities? And they definitely tested it. And by recognizing that, anniversary and then following it up, they found more people reached out and said, yes, I'd like information about your program than when they just sent marketing out. And I have a feeling if you did something similar, if you know the person's birthday, and again, not as part of the birthday outreach, but shortly after you do that, I think, I've seen that be effective as well in terms of an easy way to start. The other thing that's coming up that, works for everybody is right after year-end fundraising. I know no fundraisers want to hear about the next campaign, but a really early January campaign, because, that's the other time of year that you've made your resolutions and you're somehow going to probably get more organized in some area. And again, kind of thinking about, geez, I got to plan for retirement and get this, talk to the kids or whatever you need to do. And I've seen marketing in January be really effective, not to mention the days are dark and people are out less and they might pick up your piece of mail or email more than they might in, say, August or something. So.
Exactly. They're not expecting to get those year-end asks in January and February. So it's a great time to also start to talk about legacy giving to them for the long horizon. Yeah.
Next question. We always do a year-end annual appeal. What if we change that to after the new year? Is there research that shows when it is better to do one?
For an annual appeal or?
Yeah, to say a year-end annual appeal. For what it's worth, I think you want to do your year-end annual appeal before the 31st of December. Yes. But I do think, and I've actually seen this be effective. And if you're an Every Action user, you can actually set this up before you go on your year-end holiday. But that first week in January, coming back and, saying, did you know you could leave a terrific legacy with our organization? And as Lori said, you start out with, here's the values of why that would be important to you. But then it's, if you also want to know more about the logistics of it, feel free to, to reach out. So we got a couple of more questions. Last chance for everybody to submit questions also. But next question, I heard Every Action has planned giving tools. How do they help? I'll answer the first part of this because I'm not exactly unbiased about this. I think we have a terrific tool set. We really give you the parts of your CRM, of your, database where you can collect all that important information. So age and birth date, and as well as, annual giving history and events, and that really 360 view of what you do. We make it super easy to come back and segment those folks to do your marketing. We can help you set up drip campaigns if you want to, do online marketing. We also can help you set up direct mail or telemarketing campaigns that you want to do, and you can do that all in the tool. We also give you a way that you can track that. You've done that marketing and somebody says, oh yeah, I'm interested in more information. And we all know sometimes it is a long spell between when they say we want more information and we actually make a gift. And we can help you set up kind of that moves management and planned giving to where you can keep that conversation going until they're really ready to do that. I don't know, Laura, you might have other thoughts of what Every Action does well or what other things folks might need.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the platform is really easy to use. It's very intuitive. There are some platforms that you have to go like 3 pages deep and then there's a check off for a planned gift. You don't even know what the person did or if it's an interest. So in your platform, it's very easy to see interest, information, contact information with the donor. Remember, this is a long-term gift, so you need to have a lot of information about that donor. It may not close right away. It may take a year or two. So if everyone has that information for any type of major gift officer, anyone that is meeting with that donor knows the whole picture, and how legacy giving is also part of that ask, because legacy giving is an individual gift. It's not a corporate gift. It's not a grant. It's part of the individual gift. So your major gift officers need to have that information, and it's very easy to use.
Yeah. And so a couple things. So if you are curious what Every Action's plan giving tools look like, we'd be delighted to give you a demo. It takes 20 minutes. It is not a deep commitment, but love to show you that. And if you're already an Every Action client, we do have some groups of people who are doing planned giving, and we put 6 or 7 groups together and run a couple of months of just helping them optimize using their tools. If you're interested in that, reach out as well, and we'll get you into the next group that we have available. And if you have interest beyond plan giving, needless to say, this is the shameless plug section, but we would be happy to show you anything in our tools. We're really proud of them, and we think it makes your job a lot easier. So simply go to everyaction.com/development, and we're happy to get you set up. Also, Lori, besides being a terrific consultant that will help you raise a lot more money with your plan giving, she does a lot of classes. She's been at NYU and Yeshiva, and she does her own series. And I think you'll find a lot of value in what she does. So if you're interested in classes, or you want to, Lori also does a terrific newsletter that has lots of good tips in it for you on plan giving, or you want to contact her in any other way, you'll see here you got 2 options. Her email is on here. It's Lori@everydayplannedgiving.com. And also Lori has, what I really love is she has a quiz. Are you ready for a legacy giving program? Which is really a really nice way of saying, here's what you're missing in your legacy program that you need to have. But you can go to her website and take that quiz and show you where you're at. And to go there, it's just www.everydayplannedgiving.com/quiz. And I think with that, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Hopefully you're having a lovely fall day wherever you are. If you have any more questions on anything, please reach out. And if you didn't quite catch Lori's email, feel free to email us here and we'll connect you with Lori. Lori, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Really
This was
appreciate it.
wonderful.
Thank you.